This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are a show about creativity, innovation, and design. This week, we're going to take questions from you, the listeners. I've received a couple of emails in over the last couple of weeks, and one in particular from a listener named Chris brought up an interesting point. Now, because of my background and the fact that I come from the technology field, having been the CTO at Hewlett-Packard for so many years, there is this impression that innovation equals technology. And Chris brought up a good point about what are jobs and career opportunities for those of us who are creative, who want to participate in the innovation economy, when you don't have an engineering or a technical or software coding background. And first off, I want to say if I'm giving the impression through this show or through the podcast over the last 12 years, and I think I've tried to be pretty good about this, but I do tend to fall into it always being around tech. Don't get misled. Innovation applies across a wide range of areas. So we're going to actually spend this entire show talking about career opportunities, skill sets needed for those that want to have a career opportunity in innovation, in creativity, that don't have a STEM background, as an example. So sit tight. If you're in this boat, hopefully you'll find this show very interesting. Even if you're an engineer or you do have a STEM background, us talking about these skill sets is just a good constant reminder of the things that we all need to work on if we're going to have a successful career in what I call the innovation game. So Chris listed off a whole series of questions. I'm going to tick these off one at a time. And then maybe even expound upon them and add my own variations of questions that I think are rattling around in your head. And if I don't answer all the questions that you would want answered, go ahead and email them to me. You can send your emails to phil@killerinnovations.com. That's a direct email, comes directly to me, doesn't get filtered by any staff or anything like that. So you can ask your questions directly. I'll try to respond directly to email. A number of you have been asking me questions over on LinkedIn or Facebook Messenger. That's also a great option. Or you can just send them to me by email. So you've got multiple ways to reach me. And again, if you've got that question rattling around in your head, go ahead and ask them. And you never know, we might use them right here on the show. So let's get started. First off, the first question that Chris asked is Phil, what opportunities, including careers and fields, are available in the innovation space for those of us who are not STEM grads or lawyers? I like the or lawyers part to the end of that question. Again, many times people think innovation equals tech, and that is not the case. There are many, many jobs outside of tech. And I just did a recent search over on LinkedIn. I just went over to LinkedIn and looked for jobs under the word innovation. And I'm sitting here actually this morning in my studio, and I've got a screen up here, and I'm just going to walk through. Some of these are actually pretty interesting. I didn't realize how many jobs get posted over on LinkedIn. And all I did was do the word for innovation. And then your next screen, you'll get a list of things like people, jobs, posts, companies, groups, schools. Just hit jobs, and it lists all the jobs that have something tied to it in innovation. We're going to talk a little bit about, does the word innovation is the best criteria, but we're going to use it just for this really quick upfront example. And so, there's, it's even got nonprofits in here. Molson Coors, so I'm here in Colorado. Coors Brewery is here. Molson Coors has an innovation program manager for international. They're in Golden, Colorado at the Coors Brewery. So if you're interested in beer, Comcast has a director of outside sales, which is interesting because it is an outside sales role, but they're looking for someone to drive a new view of outside sales, be innovative in creating a new view around outside sales. Oh, here's one. program manager for innovation. It's actually at Cable Labs, which is where I'm the CEO at. So we have in our innovation team, we have a program manager role. Not a technical requirement. It's really about project managing and encouraging teams and building teams. There is a company called in Orange County, California, called Two Faced Cosmetics, and they're looking for a director of product innovation. The Malaysia Innovation Economic Growth Director in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. Uber has a whole series of them. Sony, Systems Application Director for Automotive Innovation for Sony. Nike, CA Technologies, Visa, Director of Innovation. ITW in Houston, Director of R&D and Innovation. Here's one at Kaiser, an Innovation Presentation Specialist. I'm going to click on that one because that one just looks too interesting to pass up. So it's really talking about new technologies into healthcare. There's a small interdisciplinary team, which interdisciplinary is a big thing in innovation. So it's not people who, let's say, are medical experts, but people who understand technology, networking, marketing, sales, user experience design, etc. And this is the person to actually help that team put together the stories and put together the presentations and how they do that. Sabre, so the online reservation system, has a position for Director of Corporate Strategy and Innovation. KPMG, Executive Director, Audit Innovation Leader. Sound like that. I don't know how innovative you want your audit team to be, but hey, you never know. South by Southwest is an innovation intern. So that's a great opportunity if you want to get in the innovation game and you don't, and you're not looking for, or you don't have the experience, you don't feel in order to get the role. And so I'm going to do a little look here. I just did a search for innovation intern in LinkedIn, and you have one at Equinox, South by Southwest. Vocera has a working for the innovation director as an innovation intern. Vocera, the wireless telephone systems they use typically a lot in hospital systems. Molson Coors has an innovation intern role. Schwab has an innovation intern role. DaVita, which is the world's largest kidney dialysis provider. Chick-fil-A has a innovation intern opportunity in Atlanta. Sony has one. Let's see, who else? Lenovo has one. The Mars Agency, so this is in the Detroit area. So they're all over the place. So there's lots of job opportunities that are out there. Now, what's really happening, what we're seeing, why we're seeing so many of these job listings coming up with the word intern in them is what the companies are really looking for. Is it's not all technical. It's not all you got to have, Python or C++ or C++ or whatever. You've got to have, they're looking for people who can actually bring something new in everything, whether that be processes, methods, markets, new ways of looking at customers, new way of finding customers, etc. So when you see the word innovation in a job title, they're looking for people who can create. In some cases, companies don't use the word innovation in the job description. They may say the words things like highly creative. They're looking for an innovative person. They're looking for people who think outside the box, albeit I hate that cliche. Somebody who's willing to take risks, willing to experiment, not afraid to, maybe another term you want to search for. So, the key here is that there are lots of jobs out there. You need to go find the one that best fits you and not get caught in this mental trap that, you got to have 10 years of innovation experience and, a master's degree in computer science from Carnegie Mellon or whatever it is, right? In fact, we'll talk a little bit more about, degrees and certifications and are those important here following on into the show. So don't get hung up on that part of it. What you really want is you want to find the job that gets you excited, that you're going to be extremely passionate about it. You're passionate about healthcare, you're passionate about consumer goods, Are you passionate about, NGOs helping people in developing countries? All areas are looking for people who think differently and who are highly innovative, and that's you. So don't sell yourself short. These are opportunities for you to step out and really go forward with a highly creative opportunities and to leverage that natural creativity. So stay right there. We will be right back and continue our discussions around career opportunities and innovation outside of tech. And that is our focus for today's show. Be right back.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We're picking up our discussion today around career opportunities in the creative or innovation economy. And I'm responding to an email that I got from a listener named Chris, who actually laid out a whole series of questions around how do you find, or what are those career opportunities for those that are not technically skilled or trained? So if you're not a software engineer, hardware engineer, deep technical in a specific field, are there career opportunities? That's fundamentally what Chris is asking in the email. And again, I want to apologize if I've left any impression in the past that innovation equals STEM or science, technology, engineering, and math kind of backgrounds. That is not the case. So in the last segment, we talked about what are some of those career opportunities, and I've just done this simple search on LinkedIn, looking for all jobs that are innovation related, and there's literally thousands of them. So hopefully that gives you the confidence that those are out there. So Chris's next question is, it seems to me that we are still largely in an ecosystem where credentialism and hard skills reign, where innovation/creative skills are ancillary. What are your thoughts? So, Chris, actually, this is another great question. I mean, this email, when Chris sent it to me this last week, just really opened my eyes to, I'm sure, a question that all of you have had, but just have not asked. And that is around, what is it you have to have as far as a skill set? Now, in the case of the innovation, there are very few degrees out there that are, quote, innovation. You get some universities that are doing undergraduate, graduate, and there actually are, crafted PhD programs out there around innovation. And then there's degree programs that are kind of ancillary, meaning that they are trying to create, maybe on the creative side, some form of a degree. So, in fact, it used to be years ago, I'd get this email a lot, either from students or from their parents around, my student, my child, or I finished my undergrad. This was in 2008, 2009. The economy is really bad. I'm thinking about just going on for my master's degree. What degree should I go for? And at that time, my advice is that if you had, let's say, an undergraduate that was in a technical field, I would recommend that your master's degree be in an MFA or Master's of Fine Arts. So you exercise your left brain and your right brain. Likewise, if you did a fine arts degree or a design degree or whatever is your undergrad, I would actually encourage you maybe to do your MBA for your master's. So you want to get both sides of that equation if you are academically inclined. What I'm not saying, though, is that you have to be academically inclined to be highly successful in the innovation game. Look, I didn't study innovation. I didn't study creativity. And I had a very successful career in the innovation game. And I'm still in this game, up to my eyeballs. My current role as the CEO at Cable Labs, we're 180 researchers, and every day we wake up and invent. That is what we get paid to do. So the other challenge is in the innovation and creativity game or industry or economy, we don't have a certification. It's not like a certification that you would get with other kinds of technologies or whatever. Now, The question is a certification even needed? Do you put some kind of like a certified public accountant? Do you put in a certified innovator, program in place? Is it needed? I don't know, maybe. Now, in some cases, people who've graduated from my Innovation Bootcamp course, which is a 5-day, really, really intense course, we teach it like 3 times a year. We've got one coming up here in the middle of October in Boulder, Colorado, actually CU Boulder. So people who've taken that bootcamp course have taken the completion of that course and taken it to their bosses and have justified creating an innovation team inside their organization. And that's been great. We've actually helped them on the side. We give them the course materials so they can actually run their own boot camps inside their own organization. And it's been going quite well, but that's more of an ad hoc or an informal. Now, I've been approached many times about creating some form of an innovation credential in the process for the industry. Now, it's similar to a tech certification. This brought back memories because I created one of the very first technology certifications back in 1985 for Ashton Tate for DBase 2. Now, if that isn't dating myself. And if you're listening to this and you don't know who Ashton Tate is, you don't know who DBase 2 is, I'm going to guess you're too young to remember that far back. But, the whole technology industry got all wrapped up around these certifications, whether you want to be Cisco certified or Microsoft certified or whatever. And in this case, we've been asked about creating an innovation certification of some kind. And to be quite honest, what do you think? Would you, I'd love to hear your thoughts if you would find that useful. Given that it doesn't exist, doesn't exist as a certification, what are you to do? What is it that you would do in lieu of a certification for right now? So one, you have to prove to your future employers that you have some of that skills, you have some of those capabilities, that you are an innovative person. So step one is continue your skills development. There's a podcast called The 15 Ways to Feed Your Creative Mind. I would listen to that podcast. There's a blog post over at Phil McKinney called The Top 5 Skills Every Chief Innovation Officer Needs. And so therefore I would read those to understand the skills needed. You don't need to become a chief innovation officer, but I think the skill set for a CIO are ones that you can apply to whatever level of innovation you are within your organization. And the second is portfolio projects. You need to go off and show that you can actually do innovative projects, whether those are projects that you do on your side projects that you find interesting, things maybe you've done for a nonprofit where you sit on the board, or you are a project that you're doing for work, but it's something that's maybe not part of your main job. Having a portfolio, a way to show how you've used your innovative skills to go and identify a problem, solve a problem, execute on it, and have impact. Those kinds of portfolio projects are important, particularly in a new field where you're trying to find or create a job for yourself in the areas of creativity and innovation. So again, work on continuous skills development. This isn't somebody else's responsibility. This is yours. So find ways to keep your creative muscle exercised. Find out those skills that you think you're going to need to be successful in the innovation game and start working on and using them now. And then start building up this portfolio. Start building up a portfolio that you can show current and future employers how your innovative and creative skills are really going to have that impact. So stay right there. We're going to take another quick commercial break. We're going to continue our discussion talking about career opportunities in the innovation space and how you, even if you don't have a technical background, will be able to find those career opportunities if you really want to win and you really want to have a career in the innovation or innovation creative economy. So stay right there. We're going to be right back after this short commercial break. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are picking up our discussion talking about career opportunities in innovation and creativity that are outside of having a technical background. This is in response to an email sent in by one of our listeners named Chris, which I thought was just a phenomenal email. And so we've dedicated this show to just addressing this one email, which actually brought up a number of interesting points around how do you find jobs, where are those jobs, and issues around the whole certification, career, academic backgrounds. So in this case, in this segment, Chris, we're going to pick up another one of Chris's questions, which is, do you think these types of skill sets, creativity, innovation, etc., are rewarded more in entrepreneurship / consulting space rather than in any particular career? Now, actually, I don't think so. I don't think it's specialized just in whether it's consulting, whether you work for a company like an IDEO or you're trying to create an innovation career as an innovation coach or whatever. I don't think it's only those careers or job titles that would be the obvious first link. Overall, I think executives are keenly aware of the importance and the role of innovation. Now, it's not universally spread across all careers, all opportunities, and all geographies. Now, a recent study said that 81% of CEOs said, quote, innovation and creativity were important to their share price. And let me tell you, if for a public company, the most important thing that a CEO gets focused in on is the share price. Now, if 81% of CEOs recognize that it's important, then that is going to be a priority for them. Now, the real question or challenge is it gets tied up in a lot of HR issues and changing the process within organizations, etc. Now, the challenge also is while the CEOs say it's important, they also know that they're not doing it right. The score was something like 41% of companies think that they've kind of have it figured out. They know how to leverage it. They know it's important, but only 41% are confident that they know how to do it. They know what it is, but not how. And part of the role of all of us in the innovation and creative economy is to help take that number of 41 companies who get it right and take it to 90% to get it right. So companies need help, and they're out there looking for people who can help them. Now, let's talk about the reward portion of it. Now, there's a lot of different ways that companies construct reward programs around the innovation or creative economy. The most obvious one is bonus, right? You get paid a bonus if a project goes really successful. Now, those are fairly kind of traditional incentive programs. I would actually encourage companies and organizations to think differently about the bonus structure. So, for instance, at Hewlett-Packard, when I started the Innovation Program Office, part of the challenge with inside of HP was getting people willing to take risks. The average tenure, when I joined HP, which was right after the Compaq merger, the average tenure for a pre-merger HP employee, now this is HP employee pre-merger, meaning they were a long-term HP employee before the combined companies. The average tenure was 17 years. You don't stay someplace for 17 years if you don't play it safe from the standpoint of keeping your career. HP had kind of gotten into the trap of not willing to take, really bold risks. And so what I did in a bonus structure at HP is I actually went out and when a team went off and did a risk and they tried a project and let's say it just didn't fail, I paid the bonus. They got paid a bonus even if the project that they were working on just totally blew up. And not only that, we celebrated it. We patted them on the back. It's like, way to go. Good attempt. Knocked it. You guys did great. Here's your bonus check. No risk to their career. No, they actually got compensated for taking that risk. And we would actually pay in many cases above and beyond the bonus in order to truly reward those teams who stepped out and modeled what it is we were trying to do that was new. Now, we did that for 4 years or so, and really that changed the culture on people's willingness and ability to really go out and take that risk. And so bonus organizations should think differently about how they think about bonus, because I think that is where you can actually steer organizations, change cultures, and reward people for doing the right actions, even if the outcome is not what you would hope for. You're not looking for, that $1 billion idea that truly transforms your share price. You got to start small. And when you're trying to bring innovation into a new organization, you got to bring everybody along with you. So think differently about the bonus. The other way of rewarding people is patent support and recognition. Patents are important. It's a proof of creating intellectual property. Again, patents are not just technical. You can patent pretty much just about anything you can think of. And it's the recognition from the patent office that your idea is novel and unique enough to be awarded a patent. Now, at HP and even now at Cable Labs, we put a lot of emphasis on patents. Now, patents are not cheap. You're going to drop $20,000 to $30,000 to do a patent. They are not cheap. Now, the employees like getting the patents because it's a recognition. And both at HP and at Cable Labs, we put in processes to actually reward. They did the whole process of handing them the placard of the patent being issued. At Cable Labs, we have an annual recognition for everybody who was awarded a patent that year. We also give out a significant bonus for the person who actually had the most patents awarded in any given year. Now, this isn't submitted. These are patents that are awarded. The patent team, the legal side of the organization, actually votes, and they give an award for the best written patent, meaning the most thorough work done by the engineering team before it came into legal to actually craft and write the patent. The other unique thing about a patent is that's credibility that goes with you no matter where you go in the industry or what your next job is, because you've done that. It's a recognition, in this case by the patent office. You can list it on your resume, and it brings credibility that, wow, you can create something that gets recognized as being unique and novel. So patents and companies' willingness to invest that $20,000 to $30,000 for you to get that patent, we should think about that as another way to incentivize people to invent and to create. The other one that I think is important is career path. So companies that have put together unique career paths can signal to the marketplace that they support innovation and creativity. The one I'm most familiar with is TCP, Technical Career Path. We had this at HP. It was put in place by, before I even actually got there, by Gary Campbell, who's still at HP Enterprises as the CTO for HPE and a bunch of other people at HP. And I fell in love with it. It's a career path that is fully parallel to the executive career path. And so as you get into the higher levels, like an HP fellow or an HP senior fellow, an HP senior fellow gets compensated at the same level as a senior vice president at HP, which includes the same level of stock options, the same level of cash and bonus, incentive programs, etc. So in that case, you don't have to give up your technical career or the things that you really like, being an individual contributor, and jump to management in order to continue to advance your career and your pay and your compensation, your bonus, your stocks, those kinds of things. So I think career path is one of the ways that organizations can signal to the marketplace that they support and embrace innovation and creativity. At Cable Labs, we have a TCP, but we apply it to everybody. You can be in IT, you can be in finance, you can be in operations. It doesn't matter. Anybody and everybody can be on the TCP. The other is around budget and flexibility to pursue innovations. So in this case, this is an organization really around innovation. Follow the money. How much budget are they going to allocate to innovation projects? And how much flexibility in your schedule do you control to be able to actually go out and do the work around innovation? So in this case, are they budgets that are allocated? Do they say 3%, 5%, 6% of the budget is allocated to innovation? And then how much of your time, if you're working 40, 50 hours a week, and that's 100% just jammed on doing your day-to-day job, then that organization may be saying the word innovation, but may actually not be willing to support it in a meaningful way. You need flexibility of dollars and flexibility of time. So we're going to stop right here. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to pick up where we left off, talking about what are those innovation career opportunities outside of technology. And so stay right there. We'll be right back. You're listening to Kill Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We're going to pick up again where we left off. We had a listener, Chris, send in this email with some great questions, and I want to hop on to one that he, really summed up kind of at the end of his email that I thought was really poignant. And the question is, for example, I enjoy everything concerning creativity techniques, problem identification, developing new things, solving problems. I am unclear how any of these skills directly translate to any one career in today's world, even though we are supposedly in the creative economy. Well, I would think the way to think about this is that, just like you were in school, we had reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I'm working with a number of countries in the innovating their educational systems. The most prominent one is the work I'm doing in Rwanda in trying to design a new curriculum. We're not setting that curriculum up to be reading, writing, arithmetic, creativity. We are still teaching the reading, the writing, and the arithmetic, but what we're doing is we're laying innovation and creativity across all of those courses. Same way in the business world. Organizations have innovation teams, and their part of that role is to be a catalyst. But it doesn't matter what your job function is, whether you're an accounts payable clerk, you're an executive assistant, you're the front desk receptionist, you're the facilities person setting up conference rooms for meetings or doing catering for lunch events. It doesn't matter what your role is, innovation lays across all of that. So it's not a separate box or it's how do you bring the creativity? How do you bring the innovative thought to everything you do? How do you become more innovative in doing the catering? How do you become more creative in reducing the burden of, getting bills paid or submitting your expense report? How do you become more creative or innovative in bringing new tools into the IT department so that it allows the rest of the organization to be much more creative and much more able to do their job? And so the key there is you have to have a skill set that on your creative muscle side that allows you to be apply that to anything and everything that you're working on. So the step one is you've got to keep that creative muscle well exercised and well developed. And so the one thing that I would suggest you do is hop on over to philmckinney.com, and I'll have all the links that I've mentioned I will have in the show notes. But in philmckinney.com, there's a blog post called 9 Daily Exercises That I Do to Keep My Creative Muscle in Shape. And these are actually the 9 exercises that I do every day. Now, like every other exercise, whether it's on my treadmill or whatever, for my physical exercise, I don't do it 100% every day. I don't want to give the impression that I'm some perfect innovator and got this all figured out and I can do this on a daily basis. That is not the case. There's days that I miss. I may miss it for a week because of travel and, early morning flights, or I'm come down with something, like I've come down with this cold, so I apologize for how I sound today because of this cold. But we do need to be committed to exercising that creative muscle. Just as like if you're sitting on a couch on a Friday and you say, I'm going to run a marathon on Monday, that's not going to go very well for you. If you say, hey, I want to run a marathon a year from now, you get up off that couch on Monday and you start walking. Maybe you walk around the block. By the end of the week, maybe you're 2 or 3 times around the block. By a month, you're actually out there jogging a little bit. 2 months, you're actually out there running. You got to build up that muscle. Same thing on the innovation and creativity side. You have a creative muscle. We all have it. However, it's all atrophied over the years. We don't use it. We don't exercise it. It's not well formed. You do not have a 6-pack creative muscle right out of the gate. You have to exercise it. And so take a read of that post, 9 daily exercises that I do to keep my creative muscle in shape. That is absolutely critical. The other issue around, how does creativity and innovation apply is that you need to be an evangelist. You need to be the creative and innovative evangelist inside your organization. You need to help yourself communicate and share where innovation and creativity is applied or could or should be applied to a project or an activity within your organization. The fact of the matter is if you're not going to be the evangelist, look, you're listening to this show. Some of you have been listening to this show for more than a decade, right? You are committed to this creative and innovation economy. And if I don't evangelize it and you don't evangelize it, we're not going to change the mind share of the people that are out there. You need to evangelize. In the case of just my own personal example, I pitched the formation of the Innovation Program Office before I became the CTO at HP. I didn't wait for somebody else to do it. I pitched it, and in return, we created the Innovation Program Office, and then I became the CTO. So be bold, get out there, and propose it. Don't wait for other people. You need to be the evangelist. So hopefully today's show is equipping you with some encouragement and some skills and some maybe a little rebuking. We need to get out there and exercise that creative muscle. But you don't have to have a technology background. You don't need to be a software engineer or a hardware engineer or a web guy or gal in order to be successful in the innovation and creative economy. You don't need to be a graphics designer, etc. Anybody and everybody has this skill. You just need to exercise this skill in order to be highly successful. So with this, we're going to wrap up today's show. Chris, I know you're listening, and I appreciate the email. For those of you who have other questions that you would like answered as part of the show, things that you've always wondered about, go ahead and submit them in. Send them to phil@killerinnovations.com. Those come directly to me. They don't get filtered by anybody, and I greatly appreciate that. Also, if I could ask one favor before we go, if you could hop on over to iTunes, leave us a rating. It's a big help for us. One, I like to read those ratings and reviews just to kind of see where we're getting it right and where we may not be getting it right. And also, it helps get the word out. It helps raise the ratings of the show and allows more people to hear about us and what we're doing. And don't be shy. Tell other people about Killer Innovations. And with that, we're going to talk to you next week. Hope you have a great week. Get out there and innovate. Don't let the innovation antibody get you down. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
Autism. 1 out of every 68 children in America are impacted across every race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic group. If you aren't directly affected, someone you know is. Today's world doesn't support those on the autism spectrum. It needs hacking for us to truly welcome those who think and create differently than ourselves. We're Hacking Autism, a nonprofit charity with a mission to hack therapy, technologies, and career opportunities that improve the personal and professional lives of people on the autism spectrum. We believe that everyone can play a role in supporting those on the autism spectrum so that they can show their unique talents and abilities in this fast-paced world. You aren't powerless in this fight. Use your gifts and talents to make a positive impact. Join us in making a difference. Go to hackingautism.org to learn more.
Carpenters have their hammers and saws. chefs have their outfitted kitchens, and musicians have their instruments. A craftsman's ability to do their job is dependent on having the right tools. So where does an innovator, someone who takes an idea and makes it real, find the right tools to do their job? Outfit your innovator's garage by visiting innovation.tools. Innovation.tools is an online store created by innovators for innovators. It's where you will find tested and proven tools to help you create that next great product or service. These tools include books, audio training, video training, brainstorming how-tos, and much, much more. And for a limited time, listeners of Killer Innovations will get 25% off on your first order by using the discount code RADIO at checkout. And 100% of our profits from your purchases will be donated to charity. So go to innovation.tools and create that next great innovation.
Rwanda is a shining example of how the global community can come together and rebuild a country after a devastating genocide. But there is still more that needs to be done. In the rural villages, students are crowded into schools with no electricity, no running water, no internet access, and limited sanitation. Will these kids be ready to continue the rebuilding of Rwanda, or will they be dependent upon others? Through education and employment, boys and girls have an equally promising future that can transform their struggling communities. For $20 a month, a child can be educated and a community strengthened. By supporting Pioneer Education Africa, a 501c3 charity, you partner with others to provide education that will prepare a generation to take on the task of self-reliance. 100% of the proceeds received go directly to the education of the children. Visit pioneereducationafrica.com to find out more.